All right, I'm back with another video on finances. The last video I was telling you get your home and your finances in order so you can retain more income. If you're young, don't get in debt. Do not, if you can at all help it. Live with your mom and daddy if you can. I don't know, whatever you got to do. If you got a neighbor down the road, I know this sounds crazy and all, and I'm not saying live your entire life like this, but if you can get a job and you're making $10-15 an hour until you figure out a skill or whatever, and you can make more money. If you can't afford a place and have extra money, if you got a neighbor or somebody come up to me and they was a nice kid or whatever, looked nice, and they was like, hey, can I camp out? I'd be like, yeah. I'd probably let them stay in the camper out here, and I'd be like, you gonna pay for the power bill, $100-200, whatever. If you start tearing the camper up or whatever, I'm kicking you out. They can stay in a tent, $30-40 there, but you do that for a year, save your money. Then putting it in like the stock market or whatever. Again, this is educational. This isn't financial advice. This is just what I would do, hypothetical situation. I believe you should be in index funds. There's different ones. There's like regular dividend index funds. There's growth index funds. There's technology index funds. All this kind of stuff. There's higher risk, extreme risk, because they got large cap companies, small cap companies. You got your what we call dollar companies, penny stocks, whatever. That's your small cap companies. A lot of times they're more risky, but they give you the potential to grow. I believe you should find you a few sectors there. I recommend a high dividend, a growth, and which a lot of growths will give you a little bit of dividend, some will, and just like that, like a total stock market type thing. Like you got SCHD, VGI, VGT, all these different things, some's technology and all that. I don't remember the website or app and all, but there's a website that'll tell you what's in these index funds. Like you can put SCHD and VGI, for instance, in there, and they'll tell you how much overlap you have. To me, you don't want two index funds. You don't want like VU and SPY, because they're pretty much exactly the same. They'll have things percentage wise, but they'll be like 80-90% overlap. You don't really want that, but you could probably get like SPY, SCHD, and a technology or a growth. You can get SCHG, I think it's called. I'm not real great on all this. Again, I'm a dummy, a backwoods working fella, and I'm learning as I go. And again, that's why all my stories on YouTube can change as time goes. Plus, I'm getting older. But you have these different sectors, and with your age, you will sort of want to have different percentages in those. Oh yeah, one other thing I forgot I was going to say. You want those. I believe to keep people interested, if you want to now. Now, if you don't want to, you can leave this last part out. Just skip ahead or whatever, and just go to the index funds. But if you like to dabble, you want to try to get rich, you can, in my opinion, I wouldn't do over 10% of what I put in. If I put $100 in, I'm not using over 10% in what I call high risk gambling situations. And it's not necessarily high risk gambling or whatever. I do it, and I think they're relatively safe. Like, I like Coke. I buy Coke. I buy a dollar share of Coke every day, 5 days a week, 300 and whatever days a year. I just like Coke. I don't never plan to not buy Coke, but if you want to buy these businesses, you should buy a business that you're willing to put, I'm going to use as an example, me buying $1 a day from now until I die. If you think the company will last that long and do that good, that's great. I never plan to sell any shares of these companies, you know. Now, if I get to retirement age and I need to sell shares of my index fund, I will. But I don't plan to. And that's what I'm trying to say with like you. Try to do where you can live off of it. And then when you get to retirement age, if you want to, what I say is you should try to put enough money in there. When you get 65, 67, whatever, you can draw your retirement. The government, state, whatever, is going to give you a certain amount of money. You're going to make $1,000, $3,000 a month, whatever you pay in. If this is 20 years from now, this is 2025, you know, I think the top that my state you can get is like $3,000, $3,500 from retirement a month, which is not a lot, but if you got it, and then what I say do, and again, this can change. This is my ignorance. I've only been in the stock market, about 6 years, 7 years, something like that. But say whenever you go to retire, you got $250,000 in there. What I say you do is you need to have cash funds that you can spend, and you don't have to pull out the stock market today if the stock market's low. If you're negative today, total return for the year or whatever, that you don't have to pull out. You know, if you need $50,000 to live, I would recommend having $50,000 to $100,000 in a high interest savings account or something that you can get to relatively quickly and spend. Don't really care for 2 years, but I say 1 year, you know. And then what I would do is, if it's worth $250,000, or we'll just say $100,000 for easy math because I'm a dummy. All right, if you got $100,000, try to pull 4%, live off of 4% or so. You know, $100,000 ain't much money. That's only $4,000. You know, and that's not a lot, but if you do that, then it lets you know where you're at. And that's why I'm saying, if you're young, start out and do more. I'm not saying that you can live off $4,000 a year. You can't do that. But if you can get to $1 million, you're doing good. Now, you need to start as early as you can. I wish I'd have started when I was 20. I wanted to when I was in college, but we didn't have the technology of Robinhood and Webull and Moo and all that kind of stuff, you know, so we could invest dollars at a time. Back then, you had to buy, whenever I got started on Robinhood and Webull and all that, you had to buy whole shares. So I was screwed. Like, I didn't have $100 or $200 or $300 to buy some of these stocks. Now they'll let you get fractional shares. You can buy $1 of anything, you know, or most anything, and that helps out a lot. And it's made my portfolio grow crazy, because I can buy stuff that is good. But it gives you a perspective. And like I was saying, if you've been in the stock market 25 years and your stocks, your portfolio has grown 10% a year, yes, you don't have to pull 4% out if you're averaging 10%. Now, this is average. You know, you're going to have 20% years, you're going to have negative 5, 10, 15, 20% years. But most of the time, if you do these index funds, they're going to average somewhere around 10%. It may be 6, 8%, maybe 12, 15%. The more growth, the higher they're going to average. They'll average 15, 16, 20%, where the safer stuff may average 6 to 8, you know. So I always say about 10%. If you're not getting a 10% return, if you're using somebody that's managing your money for you, and you're not seeing a 10% return on your money, you need to fire them and get somebody else, in my personal opinion. If you're only getting a 4% return a year, that's not very good. Now, I'm not saying like this year is what you get, because it can be a bad year. But if you've been with them 4, 5, 10 years, especially here in the last 5 to 10 years, and they're not averaging somewhere around a 10% return for you, they're stealing money from you, in my opinion. I believe it ought to be set up like this, and it would make these financial advisors and money managers more accountable and work harder for you. I think they should not be able to draw any money from you until they make you 6%. So if you got $100,000 on January 1, if 2025 and now it's 2026, January 1 of 2026, in your portfolio, if it's if you don't have $106,000, where when you started at the January 2025 you had $100,000, they can't make it grow by at least 6% a year, I don't think they should be paid. If they have a bad year, you don't get paid. I didn't get paid, you don't get paid. And that would help solve a lot of problems. And if I became a financial advisor for people, that's what I would do, because a lot of this stuff is so simple. I'm going to use this as an example. I'm not saying this is everything that happens, but you come into the office, here's $10,000, I want to invest it. All right, well, we're going to take, it's $100 for us to invest it for you, and we're going to take 25% of whatever you make off of it. Well, no, like that's fine, but it's not a lot of incentive, on a lot of that. And then they'll say, if you draw your money out, you put more money in, we're going to charge you more and all this. Every time we move your money, restructure it, we're going to charge you. No, just put it in. And that's what I was saying about these index funds. If you'll find you the growth, the dividend, and then something a little risky or a little, total stock market and all that, and then you got your 10% that you just play with, buy Bitcoin, I don't care, Coke, whatever, you're gambling with. I don't recommend putting all 10% in something. I would take that 10% and put it in 10 different things, and you can hit with it. That's the beauty of it. Like, if you'd been buying NVIDIA, 10, 15 years ago, whenever they started, and it was selling for 20, 30 cents a pop, and then bam, it hit $120 a pop, you just got rich. You got lucky. That's why I say, if you take 10%, you can gamble with 10%, and it might make you rich, but don't do more than that. Don't do like people with GameStop or whatever, and whenever it started running, they put it in, and then it went up just a little bit more. It went up another 3 or 4%, and then boom, fell out, and they lost their money. They sold and all that. Don't do that. Only put it in things you think are good. But there's so much about financial advice. I love it, man. It intrigues me how stuff does. I love watching it, the little tickers and all. I used to do a little bit of, I couldn't day trade because I didn't have $25,000, but I would buy and then I would sell in 3 days or a month or whatever. I did pretty good. I could get up, I think in 6, 8 months, I was up 20, 30% or something. And then I just got tired of it and quit doing it. That was when COVID had come around. I did that, and I worked, but I had a lot of free time. Because I was only working like 1 or 2 days a week, I was still making the same amount of money, but I had that much free time. I worked for myself. The small jobs quit. I didn't have to deal with residential work. I was doing just commercial government jobs, and it was big money. Like, I'd go work, I say 1 day a week. Like, I may work 2 weeks straight doing a big commercial job, and then I may not work hardly for a month. Maybe a day or something like that, and it helped, like, I didn't get filthy rich or nothing, because, I was still making the same amount of money as I was before, but it's so nice. and I enjoyed it. And I think I would enjoy it now if I got back into it. I was younger, my body was in a little better shape, and I didn't want to sit still. Now I'm capable of sitting still. So I may try to get back into it. I still have my, what I call day trading out open, and count, and I could do it, but just put money in, you'll see it grow. Like me, I think I'm up like 35, 36%. It fluctuates. I could be up 30%. I was up like 30% earlier in the year. It was 35 or 36. It fell to 30. Now it's back up 35, 36. I pretty much every year I'm averaging somewhere between 8 and 18%. And I have individual stocks, and I have index fund. I have probably 100 different stocks I'm involved in, and it's just, all right, I buy $10 worth of Cat, I buy $10 worth of H&P, I buy $10 worth of Coke, I buy $10 worth of Walmart, this or that, but I have no plan to sell these. Like, I'm buying these stocks hoping that they go up. And I'll tell you one, I bought some ConocoPhillips. I don't know when I bought it. I think it was back in 23, 24, something like that. I looked at it earlier. That ConocoPhillips, I'm up like 200 and something percent, I think. 100 and somewhere between 150 and like 250. I can't remember. But I don't have but like $10 in it. You know, so it sounds great. Oh man, I'm up 200%. Yeah, that's great, but it's only like, all right, I made $5 off of it. You know, it ain't life-changing money. Now, if I'd have knew 4 or 5 years ago it was going to be up 200%, now, yeah, I'd have put $10,000 in it, and then I'd have had $20,000. You know, that'd have been great. But by doing that, I'm fine. And on the app, you know, you got a list, and I'm about half under and half above. The half above, some of them, I have probably 10 or 15 that's up in the 100% increase. And how that happens is, if you buy something 3 or 4 years ago, it's going to increase 10% a year or something like that. Well, it was $10, then it was $11, then it was $12, and then it may jump up to $15. Well, then it's going to jump up $17, and then, you know, and before long, it's doubled in price by going up 10, 15, 20%, you know, because yeah, it'll lose down, but it then goes back up, you know. And it's amazing at how it all works. And what I do, and the more you buy, like if I'm buying $1 a day, it stays closer to the 0% gain mark, unless I've been buying, say I put $1 a day in, and let's just say there's $365 put in every year, just because that's how many days a year it is. Well, if the whole value of that stock that you have your money in is only $500, well, you're going to be closer to zero because your dollar cost averaging in. If you quit putting money in there, in 5 years you come back, it liable to be up 50, 60, 80, 100% or something. And that's what happened to a lot of my 100%ers, was I put money in there 5 years ago, and they've just increased over time. You know, a lot of the ones that's underneath are like I got O Realty and all that. I was buying O Realty when it was like $70 a share. Now it's like 55 or something like that. H&P, I like H&P. Again, this is not financial advice, but I'm buying it right now because it's like 40% down from what my average is. H&P, I don't remember the numbers, but H&P will go like down to $20, $30 a share, and then it'll max out at like $40, $50 a share. Well, if you're buying right now, whenever it jumps up, I ain't gonna say it won't go to 100, 200, 300 or whatever. It could do like ConocoPhillips and all. But whenever you get up to about the 40, 50, you can go back and look, and if it's just like that, and that's what H&P does, whenever it maxes out, sell it. I have no problem if somebody sells it. and then wait for it to drop off, and then you could buy it again. That is a systematic day trade, what I call it. It may take you years to do this, but that's how some people make money and get rich and all. And again, this is your 10%. Don't do your whole 90% in there. You know, you just take $10 out of every $100 you put in there, and you can play with it, you know. But that gives you a little insight of how things work, you know. Now, whenever my SCHD gets to $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a year, the $200 or $300 a year I put in there because I'm putting $1 a day in, it ain't going to affect it. The percentages is going to keep running. So SCHD is going to be, you know, it's going to start going 10, 20, 30, 40, 15, all that, and so on. Me, I like putting $1 a day. I'm using $1. You can use $10, $20, whatever. This is just dumb redneck me, easy math. But I got $20 a week I'm putting in, and I'm gonna put $1 a day in SCHD, VGI or whatever, and SCHDG and whatever. You know, you get you 3 or 4 of them index funds that is not connected to each other, and you do that, and you buy every single day that the market is open. Then you get a complete average. So let's say, just like in the 2000s, you know, around 2000 the stock market was at, let's say, 1,500. Well, 2008 or 6 or 8 or somewhere right around there, 7, I don't forget what it is, it dropped down to 1,000. But 2004 it was up 2,000. It dropped down, then it jumped back up, and it finished out in 2010 like 10% less than at 2000. Well, if you just had $10,000 and you put it all in at 2001, you lost 10% of your money. But if you're a poor guy like me and you're putting money in every week, and you're buying it when it got up, you're buying it when it goes down. When it went up, you bought a little bit, and you bought it when you go down, and you're going to average it out. And it's not going to be a perfect line of, say, 1,500 like that, because you're going to buy all them low areas. And if the low areas is more than the high areas, you made money. Plus, I like getting things that's got dividends in it, and then reinvest your dividends. If you get $10 from SCHD, let it buy $10 worth of SCHD. If you need to take some of I pay my taxes out of my own pocket. I don't pay it with my retirement fund. There may come a time where I got $1 million in my retirement fund, and it's going to cost me $10,000 to pay the taxes on that. If so, I'm fine with it. I'll pay it, you know. But you try to do that. Then in another video, we can get into the Roth IRAs, your traditional IRAs, your 401ks, all that kind of stuff. You can put money in these different accounts, and some of them you pay taxes on the money today. You pay taxes on the $100. So you got $100, you pay 15% tax. Well, you had $115 and you pay 15% tax, or whatever your tax amount is. So you got $100. When you put it into your Roth IRA, it never gets taxed unless you pull it out before 59 and a half, I think it is. You have to check those numbers. You can put like up to $7,000 into an IRA account, and if you do that, and say it goes from $7,000 to $700,000, you don't have to pay any money off of the gains on that. You can draw it out free of charge and spend it. You know, now I'm sure there's stipulations and all that in there. This is just a generic dumb redneck saying of it. But anyways, the video's getting long. I'll probably come back whenever I get more time. It may be next year, maybe in a week or two or a month, and I may hit on the financial again, but I love talking about it, and there's so much to it. You can make money 100 different ways with the stock market. Then you got bonds and all that, and I don't really know much about the bonds and all, but I'm really digging the stock market, and I'm in it for the long term. I'm not a get rich quick person. It's just like all my business endeavors. I try to start it small and let it grow naturally so that it don't grow too fast and put you in bankruptcy. But anyways, we'll see you on the next video. I hope you liked it. If you did, like, share, subscribe, and we'll bring you back for another video. We'll see you.